There is a mausoleum near Książ Castle in Lower Silesia, a place that looks from the outside exactly like the kind of place where a princess would rest. And if you were to walk inside, you would find what appears to be her tomb. But it's empty. Her body has been moved, more than once, in secret. Because after she died in 1943, people began to whisper that she had been buried wearing the most famous necklace in the world, a rope of pearls so long it could wrap around a woman's body several times over. Soldiers tore the mausoleum open looking for it. Grave robbers followed. The family, in desperation, moved her remains to a location they have never disclosed. To this day, no one outside that family knows where she actually lies. So here is the question this story leaves you with. Two questions, really, that pull in opposite directions. Where is she? And where are the pearls? The answer to the second question is the one that will break your heart. But to understand it, we have to go back. All the way back to a castle in North Wales in the summer of 1873 and a girl who had not yet learned what it cost to be beautiful in the right rooms. The girl who was launched. Her name was Mary Theresa Olivia Cornwallis-West. Everyone called her Daisy. She was born on the 28th of June, 1873 at Ruthin Castle in Denbighshire, the eldest child of Colonel William Cornwallis-West and his Anglo-Irish wife, known to everyone simply as Patsy. The family had the right name, the right address, and increasingly the wrong bank balance. Ruthin Castle and Newlands Manor in Hampshire were real enough, but the estates could not sustain the life Patsy was determined to maintain. What the Cornwallis-Wests had instead of money was access. Patsy had been part of the intimate social circle of Albert Edward, Prince of Wales, since she was very young, a connection that placed the family in the orbit of Marlborough House and ensured that her children would be seen by the people who mattered. Her son George would eventually marry Lady Randolph Churchill, Winston Churchill's mother. Her daughter Sheila would become Duchess of Westminster. The three of them were known, with a mixture of affection and edge, as the Wild West show. Daisy later recalled a childhood that oscillated between the freedom of the Welsh countryside and the self-conscious performance of being presented to the prince and his friends. She was at ease with royalty from the beginning, and faintly skeptical of its rituals from the beginning too. That combination would define her entire life. In 1891, at 18 years old, she married Hans Heinrich XV von Hochberg, Prince Henry of Pless. The match was arranged with the speed of someone moving a valuable asset before the market shifted. He was the heir to one of the wealthiest non-royal dynasties in the German Empire. The Hochbergs controlled vast estates and coal mines across Lower and Upper Silesia, roughly 50,000 hectares of land, multiple collieries, and a pre-war fortune estimated at around 100 million marks. She went from the schoolroom to fiancé almost without pause. And on her wedding day, or in the honeymoon period that followed, Hans Heinrich presented her with the Pless pearls. A rope of natural pearls described consistently as the longest in the world. 7 yards long by the family's own account, roughly 6 meters. Long enough that it could be looped multiple times around her neck and torso. Long enough that wearing it was less like wearing jewelry and more like being wrapped in a declaration. Daisy herself would later write, with the particular bitterness of hindsight, that she had felt bought, with promises of hunters, castles, ladies-in-waiting, and jewels. The pearls were the most visible part of that transaction. They announced to every court in Europe that she now belonged to the House of Hochberg. She was 18 years old. Pearls as armour. The young couple divided their time between two castles. Schloss Fürstenstein, known today as Książ, dramatically set above forests and terraces near Waldenburg in Lower Silesia, and Schloss Pless in Upper Silesia. Daisy oversaw renovations at Fürstenstein that transformed it into a showcase of Edwardian Prussian splendor. Emperors and kings came to stay. Photographs of her circulated across Europe. She became, in the language of the era, an international beauty icon. In those photographs, the pearls are always there, looped at her throat, cascading across her bodice, wound around her wrists. They were the visual shorthand for everything she represented: the coal wealth of Silesia, the social ambition of the Hochberg house, the improbable marriage of an English girl to a German prince. The necklace did not merely adorn her, it explained her. And yet, in her own diaries, the ones she would eventually publish, first as Daisy, Princess of Pless, by herself, and later in Better Left Unsaid and What I Left Unsaid, a completely different woman appears. She writes of arriving at Fürstenstein and finding the ceremonial life suffocating. Servants even in her bedroom. An endless round of formal meals. The vast parks and terraces that should have been magnificent felt, in her own words, like a weariness compared to her childhood pond and garden. She describes the gilded discomfort of the castles. She contrasts the magnificence with memories of paddling in a punt at Newlands. She was stifled. She was homesick. She was, as her editor Desmond Chapman Houston would later put it, a woman who could never quite forget she was an Englishwoman. This is the gap that makes Daisy's story impossible to look away from. The woman in the photographs, draped in the world's longest pearl necklace, surrounded by the architecture of unimaginable wealth, and the woman in the diaries, who felt like a guest in her own life. The pearls were armour, but armour is heavy, and it does not keep out loneliness. The woman between two countries. From the 1890s until the summer of 1914, Daisy occupied a position that almost no one else in Europe held. She was an English-born princess of a German mediatized house with genuine personal access to both King Edward VII and Kaiser Wilhelm II. She had known Edward since childhood. He had visited Ruthin and Newlands, played games with the Cornwallis-West children, been part of the fabric of her earliest years. She knew the Kaiser through her husband's world. She hosted both men at Fürstenstein and Pless. And she used that access. Her correspondence, as summarized in Chapman Houston's introduction to her memoirs, shows her writing with unusual frankness to Wilhelm II, warning him against neglecting Russia, urging moderation toward Britain. She knew members of the Russian imperial family. She maintained steady contact with English politicians. Chapman Houston writes that, for years, she persisted in warning the German emperor against neglecting Russia and throwing her into the arms of France, and that her main preoccupations before 1914 were the relations between England and Germany. She carried the same pearls between Sandringham and Berlin. The same woman, the same necklace, moving between two worlds that were slowly, inexorably, preparing to destroy each other. Modern German commentary on her diaries describes her as an unofficial peacemaker. A recent piece in the New European places her in the garden at Fürstenstein, talking with Edward VII about neutrality while looking out over the valley, a conversation that, like all the others, changed nothing. She had the ear of powerful men, she used it, and it was not enough. That failure, the failure of charm and access and genuine goodwill against the machinery of nationalism, is one of the most quietly devastating things about her story. She was not naive. She understood exactly what was coming. She simply could not stop it. When war came in August 1914, Daisy's position became almost impossible to inhabit. She was British-born. Her husband was German. Their estates sat near the front. She was simultaneously suspect to German nationalists and cut off from her family in England. She offered her services to the Red Cross. She worked in Berlin military hospitals. She served on hospital trains. She traveled to field hospitals on the Serbian, French, and Austrian fronts. She visited camps holding British prisoners of war and advocated for better treatment. Her own diaries record both the physical exhaustion of the work and her distress at hearing soldiers on both sides use dehumanizing language about their enemies. The German press responded by calling her a British spy. She was ordered out of Berlin. She was dismissed from at least one hospital. She was prevented from visiting Pless once it became a headquarters of the German army in the east. The Książ Castle Museum records that she was accused by newspapers of being a British spy and that her husband did not defend her publicly. Chapman Houston writes that she was watched all the time as a possible traitor. The very connections that had made her valuable in peacetime, her English family, her friendships with Allied royals, her fluency in multiple languages, became the evidence against her. And here is what makes this particular cruelty so precise. She was punished not for choosing a side, but for refusing to. She came to be hated in Germany, she wrote, precisely because she would not adopt uncritical patriotic hatred. She loved people on both sides. She was horrified by casualties on both sides. In a world that demanded you pick a flag and wave it, she kept insisting on the humanity of everyone in the wards. The pearls, meanwhile, were no longer being worn to court presentations. They were sitting in a vault somewhere, waiting. And Daisy was beginning to understand, perhaps for the first time, that they were not just beautiful. They were convertible. They were, as she would later put it, life insurance. Cutting the rope. The marriage to Hans Heinrich XV had always been strained. The war made it worse. The post-war settlement made it catastrophic. After 1918, the Hochberg estates found themselves partly in newly created Poland. The shift from imperial to republican Germany dismantled the social world in which Daisy had been a star. In 1922 in Berlin, the couple formally divorced. Hans Heinrich remarried a Spanish-Peruvian aristocrat, Clotilde de Silva y González de Candamo. Daisy drifted between Munich, Berlin, and other European cities, losing both status and income. Then her health began to fail. From the 1920s onward, she developed a progressive neurological disorder that modern Polish historical sources and biographers retrospectively identify as multiple sclerosis. Weakness in her legs, increasing difficulty walking. By the mid-1930s, she was largely confined to a wheelchair. The woman who had once moved between the grandest courts in Europe was now dependent on a small circle of loyal friends and servants, most notably her English companion, Dolly Crowther. She turned to writing. Daisy, Princess of Pless, by herself appeared in the late 1920s. Better Left Unsaid followed in 1931, published by John Murray. What I Left Unsaid came in 1936. She wrote in a forthright, sometimes sharp style, unafraid to criticize German and British elites alike. The books were both a source of income and an act of self-possession, a way of controlling, at last, the story of her own life. And piece by piece, the jewels were going. She had always understood them as a financial reserve. Her memoirs allude to selling and pledging pieces to fund charitable projects or sustain her household. Over the 1920s and 1930s, various items left her possession. Then came 1936. Her youngest son, Bolko Konrad von Hochberg, was arrested by the Gestapo at Gliwice airport in March of that year as he travelled toward Pszczyna. He was detained without formal charges, mistreated in custody, and released, but he died on the 22nd of June, 1936, in Pszczyna at the age of 25. Contemporary documents list heart failure. Later analyses have raised questions about the effects of his detention. The Daisy von Pless Foundation, drawing on family testimony, holds that in 1936, Daisy sold most of her pearls, very likely including the famous rope, in order to raise a large sum demanded by Nazi authorities in connection with Bolko's case. The present Prince of Pless has confirmed that the pearls were sold in the mid-1930s. This is the family's account, and it is the most coherent explanation for why the necklace disappears from the record at precisely this moment. No buyer has ever been publicly identified. No auction record has surfaced. The pearls simply vanish, as quietly and completely as Bolko himself. She had been told once that the pearls were her insurance against disaster, against falling, against the world withdrawing its protection. She sold them to try to save her son. It didn't work. Daisy died on the 29th of June, 1943, the day after her 70th birthday, in a small villa in Waldenburg, cared for by Dolly Crowther. The funeral was low-key. Wartime conditions, her ambiguous status as a British-born aristocrat in Nazi Germany, and the general exhaustion of a continent at war all conspired to make her passing quiet. Local people reportedly turned out in numbers to pay their respects. The official ceremonies were restricted. She was buried in the Hochberg family mausoleum near Książ. And then the stories began. As the Soviet army advanced in 1945 and looting swept through Silesia, the mausoleum was vandalized. Graves were opened. And the rumor that spread through Waldenburg and Piszczynę, the rumor that took hold and would not let go, was that Daisy had been buried wearing the Pless pearls, that the world's longest rope of natural pearls was lying in her coffin, waiting. The mausoleum was broken into more than once. Bodies were disinterred, vaults were opened. The family, in response, quietly moved her remains, then moved them again. Today, both the castle museums and local historical sources state openly that her final resting place is kept secret to prevent further desecration. The visible tombs in the mausoleum are empty. And here is the thing that makes the grave robber's obsession so particularly bleak. The pearls had been gone for nearly a decade before she died. Sold in the mid-1930s under duress to people whose names we don't know for a purpose that failed. The searchers were tearing open the grave of an elderly disabled woman who had died in a small rented villa for a necklace she no longer owned. The cursed diver legend, the story that a pearl diver died retrieving the gems and cursed them, and that Daisy's misfortunes were the working out of that curse, appears to have no basis in anything she wrote or that was written about her during her lifetime. It is a post-war elaboration, the kind of story that attaches itself to famous objects after the people who owned them are no longer alive to correct it. The real story is harder and stranger than any curse. What remains? There is a photograph of Daisy, Princess of Pless, taken sometime in the early years of her marriage. She is wearing the pearls. They loop around her neck, cascade across her chest, wind around her body. She is looking directly at the camera with an expression that is composed and unreadable. The expression of a woman who has learned, very young, how to be looked at. She died in a villa, 1 or 2 servants, a wheelchair, a companion who had stayed when almost everyone else had gone. The hundreds of servants at Fürstenstein before 1914, gone. The emperors and kings who had come to stay, gone. The husband, gone. The son she had tried to save, gone. The pearls, gone. What remained was the writing, the diaries, the memoirs that she had shaped carefully into the version of herself she wanted the world to keep. A woman who had tried to prevent a war. A woman who had nursed the wounded of both sides. A woman who had refused, at considerable personal cost, to become someone she wasn't. And one question that her story leaves open that no document quite answers. She had been told, from the moment those pearls were placed around her at 18, that they were her proof of belonging, her insurance, her armour against the world withdrawing its protection. What did it feel like to watch them go, strand by strand, in the mid-1930s, in a transaction we can't fully document, for a purpose that didn't save him, while the world that had once prized them and her disappeared around her? I don't think she ever answered that question directly. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe some losses are too precise for language. But I find myself thinking about it every time I look at that photograph. The pearls, the composed expression, the distance between the image and the woman inside it. If this story stayed with you, if you found yourself thinking about Daisy differently than you expected to, I'd be genuinely grateful if you'd leave a like. It tells me these are the stories worth telling. And if you want to be here for the next one, subscribing means you won't miss it. There are more women like Daisy, women whose real stories are buried under the legends that grew up around them.